Now, if you know me, I appreciate two things: men and older women. But what if there was a third thing? That being demon ladies, of course. And there just so happens to be a game about collecting demon women. Well, there's actually a lot of games about collecting demon women, but I'm specifically talking about Shin Megami Tensei. So, with the newest entry in the mainline series, Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance, I wanted to see if it was possible to beat it while only using demon ladies. Not much of a challenge, really. I just really like demon ladies. Give me a break, okay? But for the rules, they're pretty simple. Firstly, I can only use demon ladies, duh. And secondly, controversial decision, I know, but I've actually never beaten an SMT game on normal mode before, and I decided not to play on hard mode, and instead I chose normal. But wait, put your pitchforks down. But because of that, I decided that for rule 3, I was going to keep my pro tag's weaknesses the entire game. So that means the Nahobino will be weak to force and dark attacks, and there's not much I can do to stop it. So now with that all out of the way, let's go collect some demon ladies. Now at the beginning of the game, I have the option of taking this girl's hand, and because my ass is down tremendously for that Agrit fusion, you can bet your ass I'm taking that hand. Now on to my second matter of business, what to name my character. And because I'm going to be rizzing up demon ladies, I'm really sorry about that one, I need the name of someone who has fire game. And if you're a real one, you'll understand. Now we can finally meet the characters, and you can tell that this one will be important simply based off their last name. Now this wouldn't be SMT without the Apocalypse, so now this is where I transition into the Apocalypse. And instead of dying to some low level demons, I instead hold hands with this ripped stranger. And my controller disconnects, just ignore that part. But then I fuse into the Nahobino. Lost? Well, so am I, but get ready to witness one of the few times I ever use a magic attack in this game, because I need to for the tutorial. Then after this, we get our first mission, head over to Tokyo Tower. But getting there isn't going to be so simple, because again, beginning of the game tutorial stuff. Shocker, I know. But on the bright side, we get to meet Gustav and the Mimon. Well, the Mimon are going to be more important to this run because they'll give me glory, but we'll get into that later. Because just like Sanji, my lady radar is going off. And this is how I recruit my first demon, Pixie. I also thought it'd be funny to rank all the demon ladies as I recruit them, and Pixie is a gorgeous lady, I think, but after recruiting her, I run into a demon crying for help, and after mogging the fuck out of them, I instead get attacked by the Petras that wanted to eat them. So yeah, big mistake on their part, as they got Shin Megami Tensei'd with 2 back-to-back crits, and they're also weak to force attacks. I should also maybe clarify on how the press turn system works in this game, since most of my audience probably hasn't played a Megaten game before, but to keep it short, if I land a critical hit or strike a weakness on an enemy, I get an extra turn. But if I miss or an attack is blocked, I lose 2 turns. Finally, if an attack is repelled or absorbed by an enemy, I lose all my turns. But that same system can also work in my favor as well. So now back to your regularly scheduled gooning for demon ladies. So at the next leyline fount, we meet Sophia. We meet Sophia, and here's where I can use glory. You know, the stuff the Mimon give me and that are conveniently placed in these giant white apples. But anyway, the glory is used for upgrades, like, I can't really explain it because you can upgrade a lot of things, like adding more move slots to the Nahobino, or even threatening demons for their essences. Speaking of essences, I can fuse them with my party members to learn even more moves. For example, with the new Algami essence, the Nahobino can learn Tarunda and Rooted Soul. Yippee. And now the last thing I'm obliged to talk about are the abscesses. Essentially a group of powerful demons, except instead it's just 3 mandrakes. So I use my Magatsuhi meter to land some guaranteed critical hits, taking out one of the mandrakes. Then because I block electric attacks, another one goes down. Then finally, after another miss, the third one goes down. And by completing an abscess, I unlock more skills to spend glory on, yada yada. Now before the apocalypse even happens, I was tasked by Bernadetta to find Yuzuru. If I haven't mentioned it yet, this is Yuzuru. But after I tell them that this is the real Tokyo, we get jumped by a large puppy. I think he's a mischief. Then this girl kinda appears out of nowhere, and with her I face my first boss. Now here's the thing about Glaciolabus. It's weak to electric attacks, so I get to use magic again with the Nahobino, but it blocks force attacks like Zan, so Pixie is kinda only good for healing. Now you do get to use Yuzuru and Yoko in this fight, but to my knowledge they're not demon ladies. Well, I don't know about Yoko, but I'm still not using her, so I just guard with them for the entire fight. As for his moves, he has Dostama, a move that has the chance to put the Mirage effect on a party member, making them miss attacks more, and Bouncing Claw, a physical move that hits 1 to 3 times. He's not that powerful, but halfway into the fight, Nahobino runs out of MP, so I'm just stuck attacking him with my basic attack. Now, enemies in this game also have their own Magatsuhi gauge, and the best way to avoid their onslaught of critical hits is to just guard. But because Pixie was only at 1 HP, I decided to heal her, and because of that she fell next turn, so she was cooked regardless. Then Yoko and Yuzuru ran next turn, but at this point it was just 1 hit away. So after tanking a Bouncing Claw, I drove the mud away, and Yoko joined my party. She's not a demon lady ? So I put her in my storage. After this, I unlocked the Demon Haunt, and in Persona terms, this is where I can finally rank 10 my demon ladies. But instead of dating them, I instead give them little trinkets, and then they either power up or they give me a little trinket as well. And for my glory points, I learned both demon and divine proficiency, so now I have an extra move slot to work with. Now for this challenge, I'll be doing a lot of side quests. Most of them I'll refrain from talking about, mainly because I don't want this video to drag on for hours just because I decided to talk about my Mimon Guess Who gameplay, but I'll mention the side quests that I either struggle with or quests that net me a demon lady. So speaking of quests, I struggle with the very first one in the game that requires me to take down 6 Petras, and I can only take down about 3 before Pixie dies off, meaning that I can no longer strike their weaknesses, causing me to fail the fight. So for the time being, I tackle other quests, like agreeing to beat up Leland Shi and helping this MILF find her star children. I don't know how that works, but okay. But after finding her children, I unlock her fusion. My ass will be pronouncing names wrong, so be prepared. But after this quest, Pixie learns Mazan and the Demon Haunt, so the Petras from before are nothing now. Also, I believe it's time for a new teammate, so after reaching level 12, I fuse Mermaid. And she's quite a beautiful lady, such a shame that I immediately use her to annihilate her family member, but it works out for me because Mermaid blocks Stormcolor Song, and Pixie has Patra to counteract her Marin Karen, so that's another win for the Goon Gang. So after reuniting a pig and a rabbit and walking the dog, again I think it's another Mischief, I find another Algami essence, and with it I get Aramasta, a weak physical move that hits 8 times, and Rakunda, so that's another yippee for me. I also learned Support Mastery to lower the cost of the Nahobino's support skills. I think that's what it does. Anyway, the next abscess has me fighting 2 Sudamas that are weak to ice, so it wasn't much of a challenge. And remember how I said I took a quest to defeat Leland Shi? Well, when I talked to her, I decided to accept her quest to defeat Asperus instead. Now, Asperus will summon, I forgot their names, so I'll just call them Lil Goobers. She'll summon 3 Lil Goobers to the fight, weak to ice. And because Oh Magatoki Critical is so broken, I managed to take out a Goober first turn. And I almost take Asperus herself out as well. Then they gather Magatsuhi, but it doesn't matter because next turn the 3 of them fall. And as a reward, I get a level 17 Leland Shi, who's going straight into a Wuga tier because her feet are out. Huh? What? Who said that? Anyway, time for the Hydra boss fight. I start by lowering its defense, and then I hit its weakness with Mermaid. Then I raise the Nahobino's defense with Pixie, and I hit its weakness again with Leland Shi because I put Bufu on her, so I could lower its attack again with Nahobino. Then when it charges up its Magatsuhi, I unleash mine and manage to get it under half health, so it loses its heads. But it lands its own critical hits and takes out Pixie, rip the goat. But after that, I lower Buddy's defense even more, and with one more Stormcolor Song from Mermaid, the Hydra was slain, and we get a Goko jump scare. He'll be important later, by the way. But what's important right now is my new demon lady, Fortuna, and she's quite the beautiful lady to say the least. Now before I fought the Hydra, I agreed to take down Pazuzu because he was tormenting the mermaids or something. Anyway, he didn't put up much of a fight, like one Omaga Toki critical and Buddy was done for. And the same thing can be said about the Impondatra in the next Abscess. But back to the mermaids, because after I save them, I unlock a new quest that requires me to battle the goddess Anahita. Now, Anahita is weak to electric and fire attacks, but she blocks ice, so mermaid is kinda useless here. Is what I would say if she also didn't block ice attacks. So anytime Anahita uses Omagatoki critical, mermaid blocks her attacks and ends her turn. So I lower her defense all the way with Nahobino and Fortuna, then I wail on her with Omagatoki critical, and even though Fortuna gets got, I only need one more Aramasta to defeat Anahita. So not only do I get XP from the quest, but I also unlock Anahita's fusion. Oh boy. Anyway, after running past a bunch of these fucking birds that I hate, I have to fight one of the most difficult bosses yet, Nama. I was going to put another mommy joke here, but I feel like there's going to be enough of those yet to come, so I'll save you for now. Now there's two glaring issues with the Nama fight. The first being her move Capulate the Pleasure. Also yes, the demon does have jiggle physics. And if you played SMT before, you know how important every move is, so status ailments are kinda broken. Now as for the second issue, that being my weakness, the dark attacks. Now it isn't just the fact that the enemy gets an extra turn if they hit me, and most of the time Leland she blocks it so she loses turns, but it's the fact that every time I get hit with a dark attack, it has the chance to just insta-kill me. Because that's what bless and dark attacks do. So to take care of the first problem I have, I fuse High Pixie for the move Patra to cure ailments, and yeah, need I say more, but now at this point it just comes down to RNG. And after about 40 minutes, I finally get a good run. I Aramasta'd out of the bat, hitting her physical type weakness, then I lowered her defense with Fortuna, attacked with High Pixie and Leland, then I repeated all that again. Then my entire team gets charmed, but luckily I power through, landing another Aramasta, and then removing the ailment with Pixie, landing another attack with Leland Shi, then I guard with Nahobino so I don't accidentally die to a dark attack, like poor Fortuna did, Rip the Goat. After this, my party loses the ailment and Nama charges Magatsuhi, so I lower her accuracy before guarding with Nahobino and Pixie. Then when Leland Shi blocks the attack, I use Omagatoki critical to get her into the red. And even though my party gets charmed again, I power through and land all my attacks, and with one more Aramasta, Nama was defeated. Sadly, this isn't the last of her, but don't worry, there's another baddie we have to face. Because once I reach the diet building, I have to fight Nua in her snake form. Anyway, I start off by lowering her defense by 2 states, and then I strike her weakness with fire, but just like with Nama, she also can strike my weakness with force attacks. Luckily, Fortuna blocks them, so her Omagatoki critical doesn't really matter. Well, I say that, but Sacrifice of Clay still does a lot and lowers my attack and defense. But I only need to get her down to half health before the fight gets interrupted by Yakumo. And for this story, they're just kinda here, but after that introduction, we meet up with everyone and head into our version of Tokyo. Something, the real Tokyo's overrun with demons, and our Tokyo is God's will or something. Anyway, after Aogami bathes in the goop, we learn that the Prime Minister of Japan is his brother, but that's for later. Right now, I get to fight Nama again. Yay! But that's not all, because what if I told you that the fucking Dog Man is back? Because the fucking Dog Man is back. And what's worse is that it now has Zanma. So like, what am I supposed to do? This fight took me over an hour to do. So because of that, I'll just talk about my winning attempt. So even though Nama can just insta-kill me whenever the RNG is right, I decide to take out Glacio Labis, mainly because if I deal with Nama alone, I can easily cheese her fight. So I lower its defense and hit its weakness, yada yada, all while I get lucky with my RNG during the charm ailment. And even though Fortuna gets taken out yet again, the rest of my team survives the Omagatoki critical, and we end the Dog Man. yay. Now as for Nama, I just have to get lucky with RNG and guard with the Nahobino in case her evil ass dark magic touches me. And again, thanks to Leland Shi, her Omega Toki critical does nothing. So after getting a pretty lucky run with one more critical Aramasta, Nama was done for. So now after fighting 2 boss fights back to back, why not fight another one? Now Lamu was a bigger threat in OG SMT5. Here, he just kinda exists, and his fight was fairly easy too. He's weak to Bless and Force attacks, and both Fortuna and High Pixie have Zanma for medium force damage, but he also has dark attacks, so another double-edged sword. But he seems to attack Leland Shi more than me, so I don't know what he's cooking, but okay. Now his special move is called Babylon Curse, which sounds really cool until you realize he just vores you, and you lose a turn of attacks. But if I'm being honest, I didn't realize that's what it did until I lost High Pixie, because I just kept hitting his weakness. Then when Fortuna went down, I brought back both of them with Leland Shi, took down his last few tentacles, and then finished off his main body with a single attack from High Pixie. But now we saved the red girl, yippee, or we thought we did, before Lilith wipes them both out. Well, actually she only wiped out Seihori because Isanokami lived due to plot progression. Speaking of plot progression, because the school was attacked by Lamu, a bunch of students, including Yuzuru's sister, are now stranded in Old Tokyo, so we gotta go find them. But first, it's time to add Amino Yuzumi to the tier list. Listen, I think it's a valid placement, and to make you gooners even more happy, I recruit another demon lady. And yeah, sure she might be made out of straw, but she's a pretty beautiful lady nonetheless, even though I only use her once during an Abscess fight against these Jack Frost for the entirety of my run, and the reason why is because right after, I fuse her and Fortuna to create, hold on, I'll give you a second to prepare, another demon lady, and Kikurihime is a gorgeous lady. Now if you haven't noticed already, unlike in the first area, I'm now swimming in demon women, to the point where most of them only stay in for one fight, like Kikurihime, because after defeating Yakshini, I get to level 25 and create, okay you gotta forgive me for this one, Mananagol? I know I said that wrong, but you know, the rotting corpse, so need I say more. And on top of that, I even managed to recruit Volvaire. Again, I probably said that wrong, but you know, another gorgeous lady, what can I say? But I don't stop there, because I get a mission from Alilim to take down Principality, and by doing that, she'll join my team, so turn 1, I Omega Toki critical and manage to deal a nice chunk of damage to one of the Principalities. Now they're weak to dark attacks, but because Mananagol has yet to learn any, I just use Sanguine Drain to attack. Plus it also has the benefit of lowering their attack as well. And well, because Mananagol specializes in dark attacks, she's weak to bless attacks, and goes down, but it's not that big of a deal because next turn, Volvaire poisons the last Principality and lands a Venom Chaser, finishing him off. And now I get another baddie into a Wuga tier. Not because she has her feet out or anything, but shut up. Anyway, it's time I continue with the main story. So before I fight Eshet, I teach Nahobino Inflaming Divinity to raise all my stats by 2 stages, and Sakanagi, a physical almighty move. Now Eshet is weak to force attacks, and the only party member I have that uses force attacks is Mananagol. But this isn't a problem because unlike with Nama, Eshet's special attack doesn't annoy the fuck out of me. So other than Volvaire going down, this fight wasn't hard. And by the time she used Toxic Cloud, it was too late because with one final Zanma, she gets taken out. Is what I would have said if she didn't flee from the scene. But if you want me to talk about a little bit of a harder fight, let me talk about the King Frost battle. Well, I say it's harder, but I get lucky because I lower his attack and defense by 2 stages, as well as he also gets poisoned before I used Omega Toki critical. So that took him down into the red before I knocked out Volvaire. Then right after I heal up, both Manangol and Lilim are taken out, leaving me to deal with him all by myself, with Lil to no MP. But luckily he misses his King Bufala Anahita, and my Magatsuhi gauge hits max, giving me enough MP for a critical Sakanagi to finish off the king for good, is what I would have said if I hadn't spared him. But after that, I reached level 29, and you know what that means, new demon lady, yay! And you guys know how I feel about women with water powers, so yeah, this was a given. I also fused Zizan, not to use in my party, but for another quest involving the rabbit. Then after that, I get my team annihilated by a group of Mothmen, shout out Mothman, you big bastard. But on the bright side, I recruit 2 new demon ladies, that being Hua Pao and Yakashi. And while Hua Pao is a gorgeous lady, Yakashi on the other hand looks like she wants to kill me, so you can guess where I put her. But enough gooning, time to fight Fion McCool. So before this fight, I learned Divine Proficiency 2 and unlock another skill slot for Nahobino, so I could learn Ruinous Thunder, because he's weak to electric attacks. I also brought along Hua Po because she blocks fire attacks, so his Omagatoki critical is worthless. So from there, it's a pretty standard boss fight. I lower his stats, buff my stats, and wail on him with my strongest moves, until I, run out of magic, causing both Anahita and Hua Pao to go down. And the only reason I beat him was because my Magatsuhi gauge filled up, so I could use Omagatoki critical to finish him off with a single critical attack. Then he's like, my bad, you should go check out the fairy village, insert cool transition to the fairy village. Now in the fairy village, I'm supposed to find Idun's golden apples, but instead I get sidetracked and create a new demon lady that's part cat, so to combat the furry allegations I'll put her in the beautiful lady category. Now normally I'm meant to go help Yuzuru save his sister, but instead I decide to save Idun from Loki. Now the Loki fight isn't that hard, mainly because I have Anahita who has bless attacks that Loki is weak to, as well as his Omagatoki critical uses ice attacks, so she just drains them. Then towards the end of the fight, Loki's AI finally decided to get rid of Anahita. At that point it's too late into the fight, because with one more Amaresta, I take him out and free Idun, so I can then unlock her fusion. Now before I fight Yuzuru to end Act 2, I decide to make one more demon lady, that being Parvati. And listen, I would make another foot joke about her, but I feel like if I go past 2 foot jokes in one video, then people will start taking it seriously. So the reason she's in a Wuga tier is simply because of her pink hair and feet. Anyway, on to the Yuzuru fight. Now, the Yuzuru fight is easy thanks to Anahita again, simply because Yuzuru will either use Light Shard that she blocks, or Ice Shard that she absorbs. So the only reason this fight took so long is because I was attacking Hayataro instead of Yuzuru. But once I started targeting Yuzuru, the fight went by really quickly. But enough about whatever's happening, because my queen finally makes her presence known. God, I need to bathe in grass after this video uploads. But anyway, we save Yuzuru's sister, I forgot her name already, I'm sorry, and head back to the fairy village to see that everyone has turned into salt. And yeah, that's Gora, my comfort character right there. But to distract myself from that ungodly scene, I fused together Lamia. And hold up for a second, I need to change something real quick. Yeah, no, I'm not sorry about this one. But what I am sorry about is missing out on one of the baddest demon ladies around, Turbo Granny. And she's at the very bottom of the tier list, not because she's not a baddie, but because she absolutely sucked in battle. So to all my Dandadan fans, don't get mad at me. Now I could explore the new area, but instead I did something even better. I decided to finally take on the Fiend fights. Now you might be asking, are you really going to fight the Demi Fiend? And to that I have to say, yeah, don't get your hopes up. But first up is Matador. And the funny little thing about him is that he can just instantly kill me at any time. I say with a big toothy grin on my face. And even though I'm over leveled for this fight, it's still kinda hard because Buddy's signature move, Red Capote, raises his accuracy and evasion by 2 stages. But once I lower his evasion back down to normal and guard his insta-killing Mazan, he was no longer a threat. Now as for Daisojo, his signature move, Meditation, steals MP and HP from a teammate. And because I'm a bit over leveled, it isn't as bad. Plus Turbo Granny is actually useful for ending his Omega Toki critical early, so there's something that's good with her. And for now, the final fiend I can face is Hellrider. And I'll say he was harder than Daisojo, but that's because of Hell Exhaust, which Nahobino is weak to, but lowering his accuracy and evasion kinda fixed that problem. So other than that, he has nothing else to really offer. So onto the fusion of a new demon lady, that being the blonde woman in latex with wings. And I mean, I just have to, for the culture, you know? Now this area would be a lot simpler if it wasn't for the Cherubim blocking the way. And I know what you might be asking, well, aren't the angels meant to be the good guys? And to that, I have to say welcome to Shin Megami Tensei, where nobody is a good guy. So to get rid of the Cherubim, we have to come up with a pretty sweet diversion. But before I divert anything, I have to take care of some abscesses. Now I know I haven't been talking about them, mainly because I really haven't faced a problem with any, until I faced the Dormarth and Sinri one. Mainly because Dormarth has dark attacks and Sinri has force attacks. And guess who's weak to both? Also, Sinri can charm the entire party and heal. Luckily, Succubus blocks charm, but as for healing, Now Dormarth is who I take out first, because again, dark attacks, and once she's down, I lower Sinri's accuracy and evasion, and then I bust out Ruinous Thunder, simply to hit her weakness to get more attacks in. That's how bad I wanted this fight to end. But now looking back at the footage, this fight wasn't that hard. Like, I definitely had harder fights already, and there are way harder fights to come, but I mainly just wanted to actually talk about using Succubus, because right before the pretty sweet diversion, I fused Dormarth and Silky. And remember how I said I put Nekomata in the beautiful lady tier to finally end the furry allegations? Well, let's just say, I'm definitely not beating them now. Silky is a beautiful lady though, you can't deny that. Anyway, this diversion requires me to fight 11 different powers across 4 different waves. And the final wave is where I always would go down, mainly because 5 different enemies, 5 different turns, and that's not counting the fact that they love using critical wave to, you know, land more critical hits. So I decided to grab the next Algami Essence after losing a bunch of times, so I could get Severing Bite, a physical move that does better with critical hits. Physical Pleroma to boost physical damage, and I use a Bicorn Essence for charge to power up a physical hit. I also taught Lamia Mamudu to target all enemies with dark attacks. So running back the diversion, once I get to the final wave of 5, I Omega Toki critical and the Severing Bite, then Mamudu hitting them all. Then I take out one with Dormarth, then I take out another one with Silky and Nahobino. And I get very lucky by insta-killing one with Lamia, and even though critical wave, you know, lands a critical hit, it misses Silky, so next turn I finish off the 2 remaining powers. So not only are the Cherubim gone, but I also reach level 42, so I can now fuse Idun, who is a very gorgeous lady to be sure. Then when we get to the area where the Cherubim were, we meet up with Nua and Yakumo, and they show us the big important building where the Kadishu plan to summon their god. But before we can check it out, Yuzuru's sister gets kidnapped again, this time by Bethel Egypt. So you know, instead of letting Khonsu explain himself, we immediately jump his ass. And I might have gotten my ass kicked as well. So when I ran it back, I made sure to bring a new teammate with me, Dakini. And she could kill me, but I feel like she won't, so she's a gorgeous lady for that. So from this point on, you'll see a pattern with my attacks. That being, I charge up with Nahobino, then I lower the enemy's defense and accuracy with my other teammates, then I follow that up with Inflaming Divinity, lower their stats some more, and finally I wail on him, getting Khonsu to half health. So after he whiffs his Omega Toki critical, I use Golden Apple on Idun to heal everyone as well as boosting their stats. And even though Dakini goes down, with one more critical Severing Bite, Khonsu is defeated. And Mayazu, I finally remembered her name, is not saved because she wants to stay here. Which is fair, Khonsu is a baddie after all. But anyway, after the battle, Khonsu gives me the Angel Feather to summon Mastema, since he wants the Kadishu gone as well. He's also the one turning people into salt, because he can, I guess, I don't know. Then Marilyn Manson tells us that if we beat the Kadishu, he'll unsalt people. So since we were going to do that anyway, we take him up on that offer. And before I can fight the Kadishu, I get stopped out by the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So I decide I'll probably need to grind a bit first, so why not fight the 4 of them. So before I take on White Rider, I fuse. I'll most likely be demonetized if I say this one's name because of reasons, so Awugatir. Now White Rider is probably one of the easiest Fiend fights in the game, because after buffs and debuffs, the Omega Toki critical left him in the red, so one turn later and he was down for the count. But after the battle, I realized I needed a better demon to buff and debuff with, and because Dakini wasn't cutting it, I fused Sarasvati. Damn, I used a lot more demon ladies than I thought, so beautiful lady tier. Now before I can take on the next horseman, I was tasked with destroying this big Magatsuhi thingy, and Yuzuru takes this time to tell me he's going to become a Nahubino too, so good luck to Buddy. But anyway, when we go to destroy it, Yakumo stops us because he wants to wait for the witches to come back so he can get them, but because we want to stop people from dying, we decide to destroy the Magatsuhi thingy, and yeah, you know it leads to a fight. Now before this fight, I learned Bloody Glee to boost my crit rate, because I mean more crits are always accepted, but I still had a problem with this fight, that being because Idun was weak to electric. I didn't want to bring her into the fight, so I didn't have a proper healer, and that's what cost me so many of my losses. So I did what any sane normal person would do. I grinded 2 more levels to create Kushinada Hime, and with this gorgeous lady, I was finally able to beat Nuwa and Yakumo. Yakumo was the hardest, so I decided to take him down first. So after lowering his stats, I used Sakanagi to damage him, since he resisted physical. Then when him and Nuwa charged Magatsuhi, I had the guard with my entire party since no one blocked physical nor force. Then when my next Omega Toki critical rolled around, I managed to take out Yakumo, and then one turn later I took out Nuwa as well, so we could destroy the big ball of Magatsuhi and piss off the Kadishu even more. Now we could go and face Red Rider, or, hear me out, I could go and fight Agrit, and you know which one I chose. Now let me just say, out of the 4 ladies from the Kadishu, Agrit is probably the most broken in terms of fighting capabilities, but this fight doesn't show it at all, because after my well-known strategy I like to call debuffing my enemy, I got her down to half of her HP, managed to survive her Omega Toki critical, and land not just 1 but 2 very lucky critical hits to take her out. And as promised, here's Red Rider. Now remember how I said White Rider was the easiest Fiend so far? Well, scratch that, because even though he immediately takes out Sarasvati, the Nahubino blocks his attacks. Like, I don't think I took a single bit of damage from this fight. So Red Rider was, if I'm being honest, one of the easiest bosses in this game. So now let's move on to one of the hardest, Black Rider. Now every one of the riders so far has summoned 2 demons to assist him, and for Black Rider, he summons 2 legions, who will use moves like Mataru Kaja and Heat Wave to deal damage. As for Black Rider himself, he'll use ice attacks, so if I get lucky, Sarasvati blocks them, and other times, I'm not. But by far the worst part is the fact that the 2 legions have Tetracon, so they can block a physical attack for a turn. So on my best attempts, all I could ever do was get him down into the red before dying off. Like, I spent a lot of time on this fight only to realize I was making it harder on purpose, because Sarasvati had Dolmongauti to charge up the Nahubino for another charge critical, and then Kushinada Hime took him out in the same turn. So my bad, I guess. But anyway, let's focus on the positives, because after the Black Rider fight, I create Clotho, so I have another beautiful healer for my team. And I did some other side quests I skipped, and one of the most important side quests I skipped was Goddess in Training, where after fighting Quetzalcoatl, Artemis will ask you to battle her, and upon winning, she joins your team. And I would talk about the fight, but I'm level 50 and she's only like level 37, but just from her resistances alone, I decided to farm Grimora to level her up. It only took about a day and a half, but I got her into the level 50 range. Then after that, I gave her Storm Draco Strike and Resist Fire. So now with her on the team, I can finally rank the spunky short-haired tomboy on the list. I go back and fight the 4 gods that Huang Long wanted me to defeat. This is important for later, but on the same mountain as Huang Long, I find a baddie be with the same color palette as a can of Arizona green tea. And after you fight Konohana Sakuya's father, you can then unlock the option to fight her as well. But unlike Artemis, she's level 50, so it's more challenging. Well, I say more challenging even though both Artemis and Clotho can strike her weakness, as well as Artemis literally has a move that instantly drops an enemy's defense by 2 stages. But I mean Sarasvati goes down, so I'll count it as harder. And just like with Artemis, after the battle, Konohana Sakuya joins my party. And yeah, I can't even explain this one, so if you know, you know, I guess. Now before I finally face the Kadishu, I decide to face the last Fiend for now, that being Pale Rider. And yeah, it was easier than Black Rider. Granted, I did use 2 DLC demons, but still Nahobino did most of the damage. And Konohana Sakuya only really came in clutch for being a better Idun. So not only do I finish off the final Fiend for now, but I also reach level 55 and fuse Skaha. And I mean, can you really blame me for this one? She does have the big funny hat. But enough stalling, let's face off against the Kadishu for the final time. Now the main problem I had during the Kadishu fight wasn't the Kadishu themselves, but it was the fact that I would run really low on MP, as well as the fact that Lilith resisted physical, so I had to re-equip Satanagi to deal with her. But my team was pretty well balanced for this fight. Skaha and Konohana Sakuya would target Eshet, the Nahobino and Artemis would target Nama, Skaha and the Nahobino would go after Lilith, and finally Artemis would take on Agret alone while Konohana Sakuya healed. But the 3 other members of the Kadishu really don't matter in this fight because Lilith can just bring them back whenever she wants. And for her signature move, Mother Earth, well, fading away the debuffs is the best part about it, mainly because I only use physical moves against Nama, again because Lilith resists them. And speaking of Nama, she was the first to go down, followed by Agret and Eshet. After this, Lilith would continue to bring out Agret, but Artemis always took her out, until she ran out MP, then she proceeded to bring the other 2 back out. But thanks to Nama being Nama, I easily was able to take her out, and then after a massive fumble on their part, I was able to take out Agret and Eshet in the same turn. And then with one final Sakanagi, Lilith fell next turn. Well, not really, because she's perfectly fine in the following cutscene, but I'm not. I'm actually fucking dying. But then it turns out that the goat Aogami sacrifices himself to save me. Rip to peak fiction, and now the goddess Tiamat is now reawakened, so that's kind of out of my control now. But after waking up from my nap, I see Dazai and Abdiel slay Yuzuru, because remember, he wanted to become a Nahobino. See, I told you that was important, and speaking of things that I told you to remember when Koshimizu said he was brothers with Aogami? You know, during the whole goop scene? Well, now that Aogami and Yuzuru are gone, I fuse with Koshimizu and become a Nahobino again. Yippee. But everyone shut the fuck up for a second because my ass just unlocked the fusions for the Kadishu. Oh boy. But, we can now go and do another DLC fight, and that's going to be against Cleopatra. And even though I do have a pretty good strategy for my fight, Cleopatra has 2 moves that can easily ruin it. That being Frolic, a move that can charm all enemies, as well as lower their attack and defense by 2 stages, as well as she has Force Attack, so ouchie. But the one time she didn't go for either of those moves, I was able to beat her and have her join my team. And Cleopatra is definitely who am I kidding? Now we have to go and do this dungeon, but for some reason, my question is, why are we still listening to Mastema when he was the one that brainwashed Dazai into eliminating Yuzuru? Why are we not blowing him up right now? But you know what? Enough about Marilyn Manson, because now, after completing the Cleopatra quest, I get to level 56, so I can now fuse Cybele. And, I mean, I just think she's a pretty shade of blue, okay? Now, I'm just going to skip to the end of the dungeon because no one wants to see me struggle while doing a very simple puzzle. But at the very end of the dungeon, Abdiel's waiting for me, and she gets pissed that I'm a Nahobino again, so yeah, you can put 2 and 2 together. But because she's an Archangel, she mainly uses Bless attacks that my party does really well against. So if I'm being honest, I don't have that much to say about the Abdiel fight. But now I can finally go and claim the throne, but before I do, I want to get some of the in-game stuff out of the way first. First thing I want to do is clear out all abscesses to unlock Demon and Divine Proficiency 3, and to help me do that, I fused Titana. And for the Queen of all Fairies, she's quite gorgeous. God, I still have like 10 more to go. But anyway, the abscesses in this area weren't anything special, except for one, that being the level 99 enemies. Mainly because they do anywhere from like 200 to 300 damage per hit, and if you get poisoned by that goddamn slime, you're just gone. You're just gone. Nothing. Reduced to ashes. And because I still have like 10 more battles I have to talk about, I'll just give you the best attempt at this abscess, okay? Turn 1, I charge, lower accuracy and evasion, hit the slime's weakness, then I frolic with Cleopatra and manage to charm them all. Then I pass my turn to Titana, so I can lower their accuracy and evasion again. Now they have 8 turns, but because they're all charmed, the only thing they can do is charge Magatsuhi. Then I use my Omagatoki critical to then take out Pixie and Slime. Then I get really lucky because Bufu misses, as well as 2 chances to confuse me. So then I charge up, heal up, and then land a Dark Sword on the Onion Boy and seal his abilities. So after striking both their weaknesses with Cleopatra, I take out the Petra. And since the little dude can't do anything, I finish him off next turn. And now I can finally start building my team for the end game. But for now, I learn Almighty Pleroma, as well as I learn Catastrophe and Marakumo. Now for my next teammate, I finally decide to do a consecutive battle, where I have to face 4 bosses in a row. And first up is Cert. And even though Cert is cool and everything, I didn't need to worry about anything during his fight. So I was just able to debuff him and mindlessly spam the do damage button. But I wasn't so lucky with my next boss, Ishtar, mainly because Cybele is weak to electric attacks, and she also has a move called Dreadful Gleam, where it ignores resistances and nullifications, and also has a chance to seal off my abilities. So I decide if I don't let her attack, she can't use that move. And that's what I did. I started off by giving Cybele resist electric, so Ishtar can't get any extra turns, and then I swapped my moves around to get critical aura, it's like charge but for critical hits, as well as Bloody Glee and critical Zealot to further boost my critical hits. And guess what? My plan worked out. Now it could just be that I got really lucky and she didn't use that move, but I like to think it was all me, baby. Oh yeah, I guess there were 2 more bosses after her, but they were kinda nothing. Like I finished the final one off with a single Amagatoki critical, so he wasn't that hard. So now I get to bask in the fruit of my labor because I get to fuse Ishtar and put her on my team. And she's going in Gorgeous Lady tier because I said so. Now, after doing most of the side stuff, I decide to take on Beelzebub for the first key to the throne. But before I can, I get stopped by Yakumo, telling me that he dropped out of the race for the throne, and after I continue to pester him some more, I eventually unlock the fusion for Nua. Anyway, onto the giant-ass fly. Now this is the fight where I actually utilize Luster Candy and Debilitate. Luster Candy raises all party stats by 1, and Debilitate lowers all enemy stats by 1. I should also mention I ditched Catastrophe and Physical Pleroma for Restore and High Restore, as well as I got rid of Bloody Glee for Great Mana Spring for more MP, mainly because the only time I'll be attacking is when I have 100% crit rate. But if it isn't broken, don't fix it. So I kept the same strategy like always. Only this time I ended up using items to heal some MP back on Ishtar and Cleopatra, because buffing the whole party as well as debuffing all enemies is kinda costly. Now I usually guard during the enemy's Omagatoki critical, but this time I didn't because I didn't want to lose the debuffs I'd put on him, so that cost the lives of Ishtar and Cybele. But on the bright side, after that I took him down into the red, and then after blocking a Thunder Rain that took out Cleopatra, I used Omagatoki critical followed by Murakumo to become a Venus flytrap to take out Beelzebub. And with him gone, I get the key of Austerity. But who really cares about some key when I can finally fuse Nama instead? And I mean Nama is cool and everything, but hot Hot take, I know, but I feel like Cleopatra is just a bit better. So for that, Nama can just be a gorgeous lady for now. Anyway, put down your pitchforks because I'll be fighting my last fiend in this game, Mother Harlot. She's technically not the last fiend, but for this specific challenge she is. Anyway, she's weak to sleep, so that's where Nama comes in. So as she slumbers, I wail on her. That is until she uses Babylon Goblet to confuse 3/4 of my team. Luckily, I can still land a hit, can't say much about the other ones, but then after that she takes out Cleopatra. But luckily I don't have to worry because I null electric attacks. So after another Maziodyne, I finish her off and unlock her fusion. And I mean, come on now, she's literally riding Satan, I think. And while I'm at it, I decide to do more side quests to eventually get to level 66 so I can fuse Eshet. And listen, before I became Agrit pilled, I was an Eshet man myself, so I can't help it. But now with 2 more baddies, I decide I'm probably fine to take on both Odin and Zeus. And this fight was just kind of unfair to the both of them because Mother Harlot drains electric attacks, so neither of them could really do anything to me. The worst thing that happened was Cleopatra going down, but after that I somehow charmed Odin, and that was just a wrap on the entire fight. I didn't even get to mention Eshet's special move because the fight was over in the blink of an eye. But after that landslide victory, I get the keys of harmony and benevolence, so now I can ascend to the throne. But before I do, peak fiction has arrived, no hesitation at all, and around the same time I gave Eshet critical aura and the Nahobino luster candy instead of inflaming divinity, as well as I fused Lakshmi. And if you're wondering how the hell am I leveling up so quickly, I can assure you that I'm just doing side quests to grind levels. And the reason why I'm not talking about them is because I actually want this video to release soon. And as for Lakshmi, she's beautiful, like how a bird is beautiful. Yeah, kinda like that. Anyway, after I fuse her, I go through the second dungeon of the game, aka the last dungeon of the game. And before I get to the throne room, I run into Metatron. And yeah, we gotta fight him. But it's not a long fight because after 2 luster candies and 2 debilitates, as well as Omega Toki critical, he was already in the red. And yeah, sure, he fires off a fire Ascension, but counter argument, buddy, concentrate plus almighty Pleroma plus Queen's Decree. And after that, I got to level 72. So now I can fuse Lilith, and I mean fellas, it's Lilith we're talking about. A household name. Anyway, remember Dazai and Abdiel? Well, you guys probably do, but I forgot. But now we have to take them down for the final time. And yeah, remember how I said Abdiel was an angel and that she used blessed attacks? Well, now she's a fallen angel and she uses dark attacks. But that's not the worst of it because Dazai uses goddamn ailments like Tinterafu. So at first I was like, I'll take care of Dazai. But when I did that, Abdiel just spammed Impaler's Amnimus, followed up by Fallen Destroyer over and over again until the Nahobina eventually got insta-killed. So in the end, I had to deal with stupid Dazai and his stupid ailments while I took down Abdiel. Literally the only reason I won this fight was because on my winning attempt, they both missed a lot of their moves. So once Abdiel was down, dumb stinky Dazai was quick to go after. And to quote track number 17 on Nimrod, good riddance. Now I'm literally at the final parts of the game, but before I finish up, there's a couple more things I want to do, like defeating Huang Long. It was easier than you think. Again, I'm level 73. Speaking about my level, once I hit level 75, I fuse, Hand Lady. I mean, my interest is peaked, but I also really only need her for the Marcidi fight because she's weak to dark attacks. And you know, because of that, she was the only one to fall during that battle, but it's okay because I got rid of Agrit's ice attacks, as well as her ice Pleroma to give her luster candy and Megidolon. So that came in handy, and after the battle, Marcidi joins my party. And you know the only thing that beats multiple hands is multiple demon ladies. Finally, I decided to take on Samael, and you might be thinking, am I planning on taking on Satan? Yeah, no, I'm just fighting Samael because I'm jealous he pulled all the Kadishu. I mean because he's an evildoer. Nice save, me. Marcy, I know I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry, I'm just tired and don't want to look it up, at least made this fight playable by repelling bless attacks and by blocking Fogna. But still, it definitely wasn't enough to deal him in. So I did what any sensible person would do. I grinded to level 81 so I could fuse the obelisk. And before you grab your pitchforks, Alliot is literally from the lady race in the game, so checkmate, nerds. And oh great googly moogly, the obelisk is going in please tier. We don't ask why. But anyway, going back to the Samael fight, the worst part about this fight isn't the fact that he can summon baddies out of nowhere, but it's the fact that he's tanky as fuck. The Kadishu themselves are easy to deal with. Once you target them, they go down in like 2 turns, but Lilith is the one you need to watch out for because she can summon the others, giving Samael more turns to inflict status ailments. Like, you have no idea how many Amrita showers I had to use in this fight alone, as well as MP healing items, because again, he's a tanky guy. I can see why the Kadishu love him. I just spammed Luster Candy and Debilitate whenever I could, and then prayed to my Lord and Savior for my Omagatoki critical to be ready. So after one more Murakumo, Samael was finished, and now the only person who can summon the Kadishu is me. I mean, now that no good doer is gone. Anyway, after this, I finally decided to create my last demon lady of the run, Nua. And so for my final demon lady of the run, yeah, who am I kidding? Now the last thing I do before taking on the final boss is learn Freykugel and High Almighty Pleroma, and I give Agrit Drain Electric instead of Null Electric. So yeah, it's finally time I either choose Tao or Yoko, and yeah, I choose Yoko because fuck Mastema. And for some reason, Buddy just has control over Tiamat, so now I have to battle it. Now Tiamat has 4 different heads, and if you do too much damage to the bottom heads, they will sap life from the main one. So at first this fight was going swimmingly, that is until Tiamat charges up Magatsuhi. So I guard like I normally do, but this time I couldn't just guard through that. Because I mean, it did like 1,000 damage. But then I noticed something. Look at the symbol for Annihilation Ray. It's a physical move. So the next time she charged up Magatsuhi, instead of guarding, I used an attack mirror on all my party members. And that seemed to do the trick. So after some more Luster Candies and Debilitates, with one more Maza Baron, I finished off Tiamat. Is what I would've said if Tiamat wasn't immortal. So after tanking an Annihilation Ray, Aogami comes back from the Magatsuhi Tiamat lost, and Koshimizu dies healing Yoko because he's needed to be gone from the plot. Speaking of the plot, with Aogami, I'm able to finish off Tiamat because I just have that dog in me now. What can I say? But now Mastema's pissed off, so I have to take care of him now. And the worst part about Mastema is the fact that he can have like 8 press turns whenever he wants. I probably did something that triggers that, but it doesn't matter if he ends up using Mahama Baron, because then he'll lose all his turns anyway. But towards the end of the fight, he'll use a move called Seething Manasmat to get critical hits off, and that paired with force attacks took me out the first time. But on my second attempt, he rarely went for it because both times he had 8 press turns, he instead chose to charge up Magatsuhi. So because of that, I was able to finish him off with a Freykugel. And now, with nothing stopping me, I can finally take the throne. Or so I thought, because I have to actually fight Lucifer for it. And for a final boss, Lucifer was very, very easy. Like, I can understand the gimmick of changing his resistances every turn, as well as creating stars that can instantly kill you if you don't destroy them. But when the stars are very easy to be destroyed and 3/4 of my party can use almighty attacks, it kinda breaks this fight. Still, his worst move has to be Tenterafu, but after 2 Omagatoki criticals, I managed to finish him off with Killing Wind from Nua. And after he dramatically explodes, I walk towards the throne and the credits roll. So, can you beat Smt V Vengeance with only demon ladies? For the first time in one of these videos, you actually can. And here's what my final tier list looks like, and here's what my bastard of a friend made as well. But we all know mine is the better version, because I'm a person on the internet, and my opinion is always going to be the correct one. But anyway, thank you for watching my first full Shin Megami Tensei video. I definitely plan to do more in the future, like going back and finishing my Nuzlocke in Vengeance, so if that sounds interesting to you, perhaps you could subscribe. But more importantly, just remember to have a fantastic day, and I'm going to go touch grass.